DC Comics recently launched its new publishing line, the Absolute Universe, which continues to bring fresh origins to its main heroes. I'm Andrew the Geek Master, and in today's video, we'll go over absolutely everything that's been released so far about Absolute Superman. A Superman without the Fortress of Solitude, without family, and without a home. Don't forget to leave a like to support the channel. And to make sure you don't miss stories like this, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and let's get started. The story begins years ago, 9 million light-years away from Earth. In the Absolute Universe, the planet Krypton is an extremely advanced and technologically sophisticated civilization, with its society divided by a class system. For example, at the top of this system was the Science League, which operated in the major cities, harnessing the energy from the red sun and the planet itself to feed its insatiable hunger for progress at any cost. They were the dominant class of Krypton, the most revered minds on the planet, and Superman's parents were not among them. Instead, they were from the lowest class, living in the Redlands far from the city. For example, Superman's mother, Lara-El, is a skilled mechanic who helps the locals with their old, rusty machines, while they are left at the mercy of the Science League, which even charges for water for their crops. But the truth is, Lara's life could have been very different. She was an outstanding student in school, and everyone agreed she had a bright future ahead of her in the Science League. Unfortunately, she wrote an essay criticizing Krypton's lack of funding for interstellar exploration. This critique was aimed mainly at the Science League, so Lara was labeled as undisciplined and forbidden from applying to the Science Academy. She was just a 9-year-old girl who dreamed of becoming an astronaut. Because of this, Lara was sent to Krypton's lowest class, called the Labor Guild, which was responsible for manual labor like cleaning, farming, mechanics, and other tasks. Class distinctions were so important that citizens were required to wear the emblem of their social status at all times. The Science League wore the Sun Crest, while the workers wore the L Crest, which was seen as a mark of shame, the symbol of the poor and unqualified. In the Absolute Universe, the Superman symbol doesn't just represent the House of L, but all workers. And despite being seen as a mark of shame, the workers, including Superman's parents, wore it with pride, calling themselves the Children of the Sun and the People of Steel. Jor-El's story is very similar to Lara's. He was about to graduate from the Science Academy with flawless grades. A high-ranking position in the ruling class awaited him, and he was also set to join the Science League. However, during his graduation ceremony, he made a speech condemning what he saw as the environmental recklessness of the Science League. He warned that the exploitation of Krypton's natural resources was putting the planet in danger, and that without drastic reforms, this could lead to a global catastrophe. Unfortunately, he was ridiculed at his graduation, expelled from the League, and forced to enter Krypton's lowest class, becoming a mining engineer. The thing is, Jor-El's warnings were all correct. One day, he had to inspect the crystal mines beneath Krypton because some workers reported tremors in the depths, signs of instability in the planet itself. Jor-El ordered the mine to be evacuated, insisting that a more thorough investigation was needed before it could be reopened. But the foreman, who was of a higher class than Jor-El, ordered that the mine be opened immediately because he didn't want to see his men idle. By Kryptonian law, Jor-El was obligated to obey, but he refused and ordered everyone to leave again. However, at that moment, the entire mine collapsed. They all felt a massive tremor, and it was then that Jor-El realized he had always been right and that a catastrophe was about to happen. He still ordered everyone to leave, but it was too late. Krypton was rotting from within, and as a result, we see the mine collapsing and expelling a kind of radioactive green liquid that melts anything it touches, including all the workers present. Jor-El was the only one who escaped this mine tragedy, But this event only confirmed Jor-El's theory. Krypton was doomed. This is where the scene cuts to the present day on planet Earth, more specifically in Brazil. In a mine, something very bad is happening. 3 days ago, some workers were digging for diamonds, but instead, they found another mineral called asbestos. Asbestos is a very dangerous mineral that can harm health significantly. But still, the bosses of these workers told them to keep working. The truth is that when they discovered the area was filled with substances that can cause cancer, the workers tried to leave. But then the bosses reminded them that they had a contract with the company that owned the mine, Lazarus Corporation. This company has guards called peacemakers, who seem very intimidating and just follow orders. Lazarus Corp promised to pay an additional $300 if the workers finished the job. Even though they knew it could cost them their lives, they kept working, thinking of their families. And in a way, Superman does the same. He fights in the name of his family. For example, when the workers go down into the mines, they realize that someone had already taken all the diamonds and placed them in the carts. Also, there is no asbestos left on site. It's almost a miracle. They just need to deliver the diamonds and get paid. So they quickly leave with the diamonds, leaving the peacemakers quite surprised. Well, not too surprised, since something like this had already happened before in other mines in other countries. Then we go back to the night before everything happened, where we see Superman for the first time. He appears as a mysterious man, wearing a hood and speaking very little. João, the foreman of the workers, greets him because he knows the young man is alone. Some people at the camp think he speaks Spanish, others say he speaks English, and some even think he is the wild boy of the Amazon who speaks a strange language. The detail is that while they talk, Superman uses his X-ray vision to check if João and the others are okay after working in a mine with asbestos. Additionally, in this conversation, Superman says some strange things, like how he no longer has a name, that he's searching for the truth about the world, and that he has nothing to fight for. In the end, Superman thanks them for the conversation and says he'll get to work, leaving João confused and not understanding what just happened. Now we go back to the moment when the workers leave the mine with the carts full of diamonds. The peacemakers are not happy. They start attacking the workers because they want to know who took all those diamonds. They almost killed poor João until someone informs them that one of the workers is missing, but he could still be at the camp. So, they deduce that this missing worker is the one who put the diamonds in the carts, and they immediately head to the camp. And well, Kal-El had planned to leave early, as he always does. But it seems he worked too hard the night before, and is still asleep. Now, we see something interesting about him. Superman's suit has an artificial intelligence called Soul. This AI takes care of him, monitors his solar energy, and helps control his powers, so much so that right now, Kal-El is sleeping and using a kind of solar panel with cables connected to his body to recharge his powers. Then the peacemakers finally arrive with armored cars and huge weapons, not caring about the innocent people around. Kal-El only wakes up when the peacemakers yell at him to come out of the room with his hands up. They warn him that if he doesn't come out, they will start shooting. As soon as he wakes up, Superman starts to act. He moves so fast that the wind knocks down a few peacemakers. He heads straight for a tank and destroys it in half with a punch, causing a massive explosion. The peacemakers can't believe their eyes when they see Superman standing in the middle of the flames without being burned. This is when Kal-El realizes it's time to show the world his suit and the emblem that his parents once wore. The absolute Superman suit is very similar to the classic one, but with some unique features. On the arms, belt, and legs, there are parts that look like molten lava, glowing especially when he's angry. But at this moment, we still can't see his cape. As Superman defeats the pacemakers, he takes care not to seriously hurt anyone. The suit's AI, named Saul, confirms that the peacemakers will survive because their weapons and armor have technology that seems to come from elsewhere in the universe, creating ammunition and even adapting to their enemies. Superman is glad he didn't run this time. After so many years seeing these people mistreat the poor and humble, he knows it's time to fight. During the fight, he protects the workers and saves many of them, causing Juon to realize that Superman is the mysterious stranger from the previous night. In any case, Kal-El only asks him to get everyone out safely while wondering why it's always the Lazarus Corp behind these things. Unfortunately, suddenly, Superman is hit by beams from several drones that seem to injure him. This is when we meet the special team from Lazarus Corp, which has been studying a way to defeat Superman for some time. One agent, who we'll soon find out is very important, notices that Superman's suit is protecting him, interfering with the images and data they want to capture. And she's absolutely right. Remember, the suit's AI helps Superman control his powers. But feeling the pain from the shocks, Kal-El loses control. He unleashes a supercharged heat vision blast so powerful that it easily destroys all the drones around him, but it also seems to hit one of the peacemakers. The situation gets so serious that Kal-El begs the suit to shut down his powers. And when the dust settles, we see Superman alone, surrounded by fallen peacemakers whose status, alive or dead, is unclear. The suit insists again that Superman flee and return to the shadows. It reminds Kal-El of a lesson he learned on Krypton, that some worlds cannot be saved, at least not from themselves. As more tanks and agents arrive to fight him, Kal-El is still a bit out of control. He wonders if maybe Sul is right, and that showing himself like this might have been a mistake. But before he can escape, the important agent we mentioned earlier manages to handcuff him. The cuffs bind her and Superman together, and it seems either the cuffs are blocking his powers or Kal-El is too weak to break free. The agent is the one who first calls him Superman and also warns that if he moves, she'll shoot. Now here comes the biggest surprise. The agent's name is Lois Lane. Yes, in the absolute universe, Lois Lane works for Lazarus Corporation. But there's still more to surprise us in this new Superman universe. First, we find out that Brainiac is involved with Lazarus Corporation. We don't know if he works for them or if he's the boss, but it seems like he's behind the alien technologies, the Peacemakers. He has several bottled cities, and some people in those cities even beg for death. But the most important thing is that Brainiac saw Superman fighting, and now he sees him as a new toy to experiment with. Then, we see that the Kent farm exists in this universe, but it's completely destroyed, abandoned, and belongs to Lazarus Corp. Finally, we go back to Krypton's past. This time, we see Lara working until Jor-El arrives all battered, which makes Lara very worried. He's quite sad and says they need to check something before telling the world. Lara doesn't know exactly what it is, but she suspects when Jor-El tells them to enjoy Krypton's beauty while they still can. And on the last page, we have another big revelation. It turns out that Kal-El wasn't sent to Earth right after he was born. He spent most of his childhood on Krypton. We see young Kal-El with his dog, probably Krypto, running to hug his parents as soon as he sees them. The detail is that near them, a green liquid starts leaking from the ground, showing that Krypton's end is very near. The chapter begins 6 years ago, on the planet Krypton. Kal-El was attending an online class, but he didn't seem very excited. The teacher was angry with him because Kal-El decided to write his lesson by hand and in his own words, without using the artificial intelligence that everyone else was using. The teacher explained that the artificial intelligence had all the knowledge of the Science League, but as we know, the Science League isn't very reliable. So, instead of worrying, Kal-El simply ignored the teacher and decided to take a nap. It seems that even in this universe, Kal-El already enjoyed writing his own things, almost as if he were a reporter. Now we cut to the present in Brazil, where Lois Lane has handcuffed herself to Superman and is pointing a super tech gun at him. Kal-El tries to break the handcuffs, but he can't because he's already used up too much energy from the previous fight. The cuffs seem to be made of some special material, and he doesn't want to tear off the woman's arm. Suddenly, Lois shoots the gun right at Superman's face. This causes his suit, which has the artificial intelligence called Sol, to start trying to free him. The cybernetic suit even creates a golden tentacle that wraps around the handcuff and begins studying how to open it, but Kal-El is worried because this could end up hurting Lois's arm. As if that weren't complicated enough, several peacemakers and other agents from the Lazarus Corp show up. They think Superman is attacking Lois and start shooting at him, even with Lois in the line of fire. They don't really care if Lois Lane gets hurt, so Kal-El uses his body to shield her from the bullets. Still, Lois herself continues shooting at Superman, which makes him incredibly angry. After all, she's the one who handcuffed herself to him, and now he's risking everything to save her life. But in this scene, there's a very pleasant surprise. It turns out that Superman's suit's cape finally appears. And it's not made of fabric, it's made of sunstone dust, a very valuable material from Krypton. Superman can control this cape with the suit and turns it into a shield to protect Lois. Next, Superman tries to fly away, asking the suit to protect Lois from the impact of the speed that could tear her in half. However, in the middle of the flight, 2 missiles hit Superman, and he crashes into a nearby city. Still, he keeps protecting Lois from everything. In return, Lois shoots at Superman again, and it takes her a while to understand everything Kal-El is doing for her. She even tries to use a radio to tell her superiors where they are. Luckily, Superman's suit cuts the communication before she can do that. At that point, the two start arguing. Superman doesn't understand why Lois still wants him arrested, even after he saved her life several times. But Lois thinks it's him who put her life in danger when he tried to escape legal custody. In the middle of the argument, Kal-El says that Lazarus Corp doesn't care about anyone and calls Lois arrogant for getting upset with anyone she thinks isn't as smart as she is. He even slips and says that he's from another planet, but quickly stops because he realizes it's pointless to explain that to her right now. However, suddenly, a Lazarus Corp tank helicopter finds Superman and Lois and begins launching missiles, not caring about the innocent people in the streets. They bomb the whole village, and that's when Lois starts to understand what Kal-El had said about Lazarus Corp not caring about anyone. To stop the attack, Kal-El picks up a destroyed car with one hand and throws it at the tank helicopter, knocking it down immediately, but the tank helicopter ends up crashing into an old church, trapping many people who need help. Without a second thought, Superman uses his cape to shield Lois from the flames and goes to rescue the people trapped in the rubble. As he finds more people, Kal-El uses the sunstone dust from his cape to protect everyone from the fire. The cape keeps growing bigger to cover more people, while at the same time, Superman's suit begins to fade away from the rest of his body. Then Superman takes the people to a safe place and tells them not to be afraid of the dust around them. He explains that this red dust can heal wounds, and it actually starts helping the injured people recover. Afterward, Kal-El uses his freeze breath to put out the fire, but he's so tired and exhausted that he simply falls to his knees. This would be the perfect moment for Lois to attack him, but fortunately she realizes that Superman isn't a threat. He's a savior. So, she puts her gun away, and Superman thanks her, leaving Lois a little embarrassed. With the rescue successfully done, Kal-El begins talking about how beautiful Earth is and how lucky people are to live here, but Lois doesn't quite understand what he means. Kal-El decides to be direct and claims he came from another planet. However, the moment he's about to say the name of his planet, his suit finally manages to unlock the handcuffs that kept them together. Lois even wanted to continue the conversation and learn more about Superman, but as soon as he's freed, Kal-El flies off and leaves immediately. A little later, Agent Lois Lane needs to submit a report on her activities to an automatic artificial intelligence system called Brainiac. All agents from Lazarus Corp do this, but they don't know that behind the system, there's a real person thinking and putting words that the agents didn't say. For example, while Lois talks to the system, Brainiac analyzes her words and interprets that what she means is that Superman needs to be destroyed because he can't be controlled, when in fact, Lois meant that he can't be controlled and doesn't need to be, since he's not a threat. This makes Lois very angry. She even punches the monitor and tells another agent she hasn't finished her report yet. In fact, even though she doesn't like writing reports, this time she decides to write it with her own hands to make sure her own ideas are recorded, and not Brainiac's. In fact, in this report, Lois writes that before she thought the suit was what gave Superman his strength, but now she's completely sure that Superman doesn't depend on his suit. She also has the impression that even Superman doesn't fully understand all his abilities. It's as if he's new to this hero thing, and he's probably suffered some great tragedy in the past. After this, we have another flashback to Krypton. This time, we see Jor-El and Lara trying to find a way to save Krypton, which is about to be destroyed. They're working on a plan based on a prototype Lara created when she was 12 years old. It was a special suit that also worked as a rocket for space exploration based on nanotechnology. They make adjustments to the prototype, but it seems they won't have enough time to build more. Back to the present, Kal-El decides that his next mission will be to help people in Venezuela. However, he's still not free from the peacemakers. One of the agents from the tank helicopter that crashed survived and keeps repeating that peace comes at a price. The other agents call him Smith, and that's when we realize he is Christopher Smith, the peacemaker from the main DC universe. Smith is deeply traumatized after facing Superman. He believes that the locals know where Superman is hiding, so he decides to do something terrible. He starts killing all of them, claiming that everyone needs to learn that peace comes at a price. The third chapter begins 6 years ago on Krypton, where we find out that as a child from Krypton, Kal-El was considered too slow, with a lack of coordination to qualify for Krypton's academy. The truth is, he found school a huge challenge, so his grades were never good enough for him to get into the science academy. Not that Kal-El wanted to go to any of those academies. He was actually happy in the labor guild, living away from the cities. That's where he had his only two friends, his parents. He loved spending time with them exploring the hills of Krypton. During one of these explorations, his parents told him that one of the teachers had contacted them because Kal-El refused to use the Science League's artificial intelligence and instead was writing his own words. Jor-El even says that by doing this, Kal-El is challenging 3,000 years of Kryptonian tradition. Still, Kal-El responds that writing his own words makes him happy, and in the end, his parents encourage him to keep doing it, even if it's affecting his grades. They trust their son to find his own way and follow his passions. Of course, being so young, Kal-El doesn't know what he wants, but whatever it is, it will always lead him to this place and the life his family leads. Hearing these words, Jor-El and Lara tried to keep encouraging faces, but that statement was too much for Jor-El. He walks out without saying a word and heads to the deepest caves to collect rock samples. That night, Kal-El heard his parents sobbing. In the following days, Kal-El noticed that his parents had become a bit distant. His mother was always working on something in the garage, and his father kept bringing Sunstone home with him. One night, Kal-El overheard a conversation between his parents. He heard Jor-El saying that his proof was irrefutable and that he would present it to the clerics of the Science League soon. Lara replied that the clerics would ignore him or even condemn him as a heretic. She said that when that happens, they should stop trying to convince the world of what was happening. That's when Kal-El heard Krypto barking outside and went to check. He found dozens of dead animals on the ground with a kind of green gas coming out of their bodies. Kal-El quickly deduced that this wasn't natural, and that's when he realized something was wrong with the planet. Determined to investigate what was going on, he got on his bike and found similar signs of devastation all over the area far from the cities. Withered crops, dead animals, poisoned lakes, as well as rumors of larger disasters in distant regions. However, the official news from the Science League reported that these were just small isolated problems caused by natural gas leaks. A week later, Kal-El's class went on a field trip to Kandor. On the train ride there, they witnessed a derailment of several trains caused by an earthquake. Kal-El wrote everything he saw and published his article on the school's online newspaper. However, by the time they arrived in Kandor, everything he had written had been removed. All his notes were remotely erased, and a meeting was scheduled for his parents to speak with the school administrator. After that, the trip in Kandor continued. The kids were taken to the Science League headquarters. All of them raised their hands, indicating they wanted to be part of that league one day, all except Kal-El. Strangely, there were no clerics working here at the moment, but the teacher sternly said that they were busy. As the kids walked away, Kal-El looked through the large window of the skyscraper and wondered why anyone would want to work so far from the ground. However, it was at that moment that he heard a familiar voice arguing with someone. It was the voice of his father, being dragged and arguing with the guards. Jor-El tried to warn that everyone's lives were in danger and that he needed to speak with the clerics, but no one listened. Instead, he was branded a heretic, just as Lara had predicted. Seeing this, Kal-El became completely desperate. He asked his father what was going on, and Jor-El just told him to run home as fast as he could. Father and son barely had time to talk, because one of the officers knocked out Jor-El with a taser and simply knocked Kal-El down, leaving him helpless. Then, obeying his father, he ran out of the tower and back home to tell Lara everything that had happened. And well, it seems that Lara was already expecting this. Without a second thought, she put on the special suit she had been working on, grabbed a giant weapon, and told Kal-El to follow her. But if something went wrong, he would have to return to the garage alone and call for Sol. Either way, the focus now was to rescue Jor-El. And indeed, they returned to Kandor and started looking for Jor-El inside the Science League headquarters. Here, we see Lara defeating each of the officers by shooting lava at them, and she is helped by Krypto, who already wears a cape made of sunstone dust. In fact, it's Krypto who destroys the cells where Jor-El was held and easily takes down the guards. Lara soon follows after defeating the remaining guards and even showing off her suit's defenses, which cover her entire body and face. Jor-El and Lara share a romantic moment, but soon realize that Kal-El is not there. Well, as for Kal-El, he had separated from his mother to get the access codes from one of the guards defeated by Lara. However, there's something that's been bothering him. This is the most important place on the planet, and he feels the security is way too low, with not even the clerics being here. So, when he accesses a computer, he discovers that the clerics have secretly been building spaceships with enough space on board only for the ruling class of Krypton. That's when Kal-El connects all the dots and realizes that Krypton is doomed. With that, the El family returns home, and Jor-El and Lara try to break the news that Krypton is dying, but Kal-El tells them that he already knows everything. He knows they plan to launch him into space alone in Lara's spacesuit, but he won't leave without his parents. In a very touching scene, they embrace, and his parents reveal they would never send him alone into space. They take him to the barn and show him a large ship they built for themselves, their friends, family, and anyone else they might save. Lara laments that they can't save the entire planet and that the clerics don't know what's coming. That's when Jor-El gets a notification on his tablet and discovers that, in fact, the clerics already know about the imminent destruction. They've built ships to save the upper classes and are hiding the truth from the people that Krypton is doomed. This story had been published a few minutes ago from Kandor Central and is quickly being shared through Krypton's artificial intelligence. It's at this moment that Jor-El and Lara realize that it was Kal-El himself who did this. They smile proudly as they look at their son, who wonders where they are going. To finish, we cut to Earth, to Smallville in the present day. The caretakers of the place talk about an elderly woman who is apparently losing her mind, as every day without fail she asks to see her son again. The problem is that the records show she never had children. Everything points to this elderly woman being Martha Kent. She wonders where the angel went. She begs him to fly back to her, as that is where he belongs. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on the origin story of this new Superman from the absolute universe of DC. If you want to learn more about this universe, I'll leave the links in the pinned comments. To see the continuation, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and leave a like to help us out. Thank you for watching, and see you on the next adventure.